we're going to move on to the other kind of controversial thing here in the oven mitts and Aaron Judge's slide going into second base. Now, this is like split 50-50. This is a lot of people are like, yep, it was interference. He stuck his hand up, blocked it clear as day. And then Aaron Judge comes out after the game. He goes, I slide like that all the time. I always have my hands up.
He does, which is true.
It is true. But if you watch, there's like a clip of him going in, I don't know, 15, 20 times. There is a couple where he switches to the right hand, depending on what side of the base the fielder is going across, right? Yes. So is he trying to interfere? Maybe not. Maybe he's just trying to obstruct the view of the fielder. But you have these 5 to 10 inch oven mitts on now, and he has no fear putting his hand up to try to block a ball. If it hits my hand, it hits my hand. But the fact that the umpires missed this call on the field and then came out after the game and said, yeah, you know what? We missed it. What? Did umpires just admit that they missed a call? That is all the fans want. The fans just want the umpires to be accountable. Be like, hey, yeah, I missed that pitch right down the middle. It was a strike. I called it a ball. I missed it. But, I mean, it's clearly interference. This play is clearly interference. His hand is up. He bats the ball out of the air. I don't know how you call it the other way.
I don't know how you missed the call to begin with. I mean, the shortstop, the second baseman fields the ball, flips to the shortstop. The shortstop makes a throw. It hits Aaron Judge's hand and doesn't even make it to first.
Right.
Like if you've got 4 umpires in the field that can't see that ball not get to first base because Aaron Judge's hand was in the way, I don't know how you fix that level of unable to call a game. Like, there's no reason to miss that. There's no debate about what it was. But what I will say is that back when I was in like AAU ball in high school, they taught us to slide with our hand up to try to obstruct the view of the player.
Right.
That was how we were taught to slide. You slide, you put your hand up, you make it harder for them to see. On occasion, you're going to take a ball off the hand and it doesn't feel very good, and it's an interference call, but maybe you'll block a view enough to make him make a bad throw. But like, we were taught to slide that way. That's old school.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge sliding that way today just seems silly. But not only that, but a guy with that's that tall with that kind of wingspan. I mean, that dude laying on the ground putting his arm up he's probably the same height as a guy like Dustin Pedroia was standing up. Like,
right.
There's a lot of middle infielders that he is an intimidating force coming at them, and he puts his hand up in the air and they probably can't see. But there's no way to miss that call. The ball clearly doesn't make it to first base because Aaron Judge's hand is the only thing in the way of the throw.
How do you miss that call? And how do you not hear it slap off that oven mitt?
The whole thing blows my mind. It's like, it was so clear what happened. Everybody saw it. It was obvious what happened. And they still blew the call. And amen, they admitted to it. But at the same time, you got to go back and say, well, how could you have missed it? Like, the ball didn't make it to first base.
Right.
It got knocked out of the air. And none of the 4 of you clearly saw what happened?
I mean, granted, it didn't change the outcome because the Yankees still won 15-5. But
it didn't matter. But still,
right, it doesn't matter.
But it was just dumb.
It's just funny, like listening or seeing the comments online. Like, people are like split down. Oh, Judge does that every time. Okay,
he does.
Right. I saw a comment that was perfect. He's like, if I speed in a school zone 58 times, but I get caught on the 59th time, like, it's still wrong. Like, right. I'm still speeding. It's just the 59th time I got caught. Like,
not getting caught does not mean it's not illegal.
Right. So it was perfect. But
and right. Judge always slides like that. His hand is always in the air. I've never seen it get hit before.
Right.
But when you do that, it's bound to happen eventually.
Exactly. What is your view on the oven mitts? Because I know they're to protect their fingers, and I'm all for, protection. I mean, these guys are up there in hockey gear when they're hitting now at this point. But like,
well, if a guy was throwing 100 miles an hour, I might go up there in hockey gear too, man.
Oh, for sure. Like, full on leg pads, shin pads, everything.
Yeah, I would look like Swayman up there.
I get it. But like, at what point do the players keep pushing the envelope and pushing the envelope? Like, oh, like, I have an oven mitt that's 4 inches past the end of my fingertip. So it gives me a little bit extra advantage to get into a stolen base or get back to the bag on a pickoff attempt. Like, can MLB regulate this somehow or get it to stop? Or will they?
Well, I'm with you on I get the purpose of the oven mitt to protect their fingers, and like you said, I'm all for player safety. And there's nothing worse than a guy missing a chunk of the season because he breaks a finger going into second base. So,
right,
got it. But at the same time, there's a fine line here between safety and like trying to find an advantage, which is what you're getting at. I do believe, and I'd have to look it up, I do believe there's a rule that any glove on the hand of a runner can only extend so far. Like they can't just like put this oven mitt, they can't wear like, the scuba feet and slide into bases like get the extra foot of reach. I do believe there's a rule about how far off their hand something can be. So it's I believe there's a limitation to it, but how you enforce that, I don't know. Could a guy just like stick his hand in a little bit and like Velcro it together, and now he's got like an extra 4 inches off the end of his hand? I don't know. There's probably all kinds of games that can get played there, but I think as long as MLB doesn't find that players are using these gloves to gain an advantage running the bases, I think you're okay. I think if you look at players that are wearing these oven mitts, and it's hard because it's hard to correlate this because a lot of the guys wearing the oven mitts are guys that run, and they wear them for a reason. A guy like Aaron Judge wearing the oven mitt, that's probably more just like trying to wrap him in bubble wrap because he tends to get hurt a lot.
right.
But if a guy like Ellie De La Cruz wears it, I believe that he wears it because he's going to go into bases hard because that's what he does.
Yeah.
So I get it's hard to correlate, but if you've got guys wearing these oven mitts that are stealing bases at a significantly higher percentage than the rest of the world, you've got to kind of wonder why. Now, maybe it's just those are your better base stealers, and you can make that correlation, but at the same time, you got to wonder, like, is there something else to it?
Yeah. I saw one the other day. It was a Rockies player. I can't remember who it was, but they had Dinger on their oven mitts, and he had the ears sticking off the ends of the oven mitts. It was a really cool oven mitt. But again, that's like an extra like advantage. You think about that, like Marcus Semien got tagged out last year in the playoffs from his batting gloves hanging out of his back pocket.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's just like little stuff like that. But like, I just wonder if MLB at some point will be like, it has to be just the mitt. It can't be anything else hanging off it or whatever. I don't know.
Well, I mean, football, they talk about football is a game of inches and baseball is a game of milliseconds. Like you're talking like a snap of a finger can change the entire outcome of a game. And that mitt might make the difference. That extra half inch to an inch off the top of your finger, depending on how it's positioned on your hand, maybe that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a good way to police that. I would say that if MLB doesn't have regulations on how those gloves are supposed to fit and how they're made, they should, but I'm pretty sure they do have some guidelines around how they have to fit.
It's fair.
But if you continue to see guys in these oven mitts that are gaining some sort of an advantage, you should be checking them. You should make sure that they actually do fit. They are made to standard. I feel like we're getting to a point now where, they're checking pitchers between innings. You kind of have to check hitters on occasion too. Like,
right.
Maybe not the George Brett extent of like let's measure the bat every time and throw them out for pine tar because you don't see that as much anymore. But like these guys are using all kinds of, they've got all these different sprays and ointments and rosin and then all these things they wear in their hands, the different types of batting gloves and the little things they put on their thumb to help their positioning. And Ellie De La Cruz has the thing on the knob of his bat. Like these guys have all these little things they use to get an edge. Does anybody check those? Like, are we actually checking to make sure these guys aren't using like spider tack on their bats so they can swing as hard as they want without losing it? Are we making sure that these little thumb things aren't like giving them an advantage for how to release the bat? Like, or are we just like allowing that to be what it is because, it helps them hit?
Yeah. I think then we're getting into like the micromanaging of the game. And it's not even about the game at that point. It's just about policing guys getting an advantage, which could take away from the time of the game too. But
it totally could. But I mean,
I don't know.
You're inspecting pitchers like every half inning. Like,
yeah, I get it.
I feel like, MLB is already heading down this path of like, how often do they check the bats? How often do they check the various sprays they've got in the on deck circle? How often are they checking what these guys are actually putting on their hands? Like, and I'm not saying do it every at bat, but like during a series or at least like walking into the dugout to be like, hey, what are you guys using? Like,
yeah,
I'm assuming there's got to be some kind of inspection of this stuff, but you just don't see it.
No.
The pitches are obvious. The inning ends, they get frisked.
Yeah,